Hello, I'm Joyce Woodworth. Welcome to the Spirit of the Heartland. Limestone such as this can be seen peeking out of the bluffs up and down the Mississippi River Valley. A particular rich vein of it is deposited in the bluffs directly above Winona. One family has been responsible for cutting it out of the bluffs in block form for over 100 years. Today we're going to find out about this family of stonemen and about Winona's travertine, otherwise known as Biesanz stone. Winona's limestone is seen not only along the bluff sides, but can also be seen in one form or another on practically every block in the city. It was used as foundation stones for most of the houses built before 1920 when cement blocks took over. It can be seen in chimneys and fireplaces, around gazebos and flower beds, signs and fountains, benches and patios. The wall stones at the Garvin Heights Lookout contain some of the original quarried Biesanz stones. Several houses are constructed of the stone. This beautiful home at Lake Winona is constructed totally on the outside with rough-hewn blocks of Biesanz stone. It never needs painting, it's impervious to stain, and it's 100% frost-proof. Consequently, it will last basically forever and look just as good 100 years from now. We can view the stone in a polished veneer format on this more recently built Biesanz stone home, also in the Mississippi River Valley. Many of our buildings are constructed of the Biesanz stone. The Page Theater at St. Mary's University campus, for instance, and many of our churches, the Cathedral of the Sacred Heart, Central Lutheran Church on Huff Street, the Episcopal Church and the First Baptist Church on Broadway, all constructed with a hard travertine which will stay beautiful and last forever. The very first building constructed of the Biesanz stone was built in 1900 on Main Street for the German Methodist Church. It presently houses the Edge, which is an Assemblies of God church. Rarely today the stone can be seen under your feet on a few of Winona's sidewalks. But once, Winona prided itself on having over 30 miles of stone sidewalks. Sadly, they have been mistakenly deemed as unsafe, and concrete has taken their place. Sidewalks and foundation stones were the first uses for Mississippi Bluffs limestone, and when Philip Biesanz, born in New York in 1842, first came to Winona at the age of 27, stone quarries surrounded the area. After serving in the Civil War, Philip left his family in Dubuque, Iowa, to work in the brickyards of Winona. His father John was a brickmaker in New York and taught Philip his skills. 7 years later, he purchased the brickyard from his employer in Gilmer Valley and developed it to turn out 2 million bricks per year. Some of that beautiful red brick was used to build St. Casimir's Church on West Broadway and to build he and his wife Cynthia and their 8 children this beautiful home, which still stands on the property where the brickyard once stood. On the bluff side directly above this home, Philip discovered the beautiful white travertine stone and developed the first Biesanz stone quarry, with an office and a stone yard in downtown Winona. The stone was brought to the yard by horse and wagon and hand-chiseled to order. Here we can see some of the original sidewalk slabs waiting to be laid. It was Philip's son Charles who took over the quarry business and purchased up to 900 acres of bluff land west of the brickyard, where he developed the present Biesanz Stone Company. Out of the 50 or so stone quarries in existence around Winona during Philip's time, only the Biesanz quarry is still cutting the large blocks of travertine out of the hill and manufacturing them for building purposes. We followed Mark Biesanz, the quarry foreman, up the winding road to the top of the hill to see how the quarrying is done today. We passed piles of rubble in various heights and shapes. The sand-colored stone and the peaked mounds of rock gave me the sense I was driving around the pyramids of Egypt. We drove up to a curtain of layered rock with a green lake below it. A strata of smooth stone seemed to have risen out of the lake, appearing like a building or a fortress was hidden below. Huge equipment was lifting the stone, which was recently cut from the hill, to be stacked in another area. The power of the machine makes it look like picking up that 8,000-pound block of stone is effortless. Hauling the stone out of the quarry today is all done with trucks and large equipment. But when Charles Biesanz opened this quarry in 1904, he built a tram up the side of the hill to transport the rock which is at the top. Cut by hand and lifted by a man-powered hoist and brought down the hill in a cable car, then loaded onto railroad cars on a spur train track leading to Minnesota City. These cars were pulled by Charles Biesanz's own steam locomotive. Here we see him with his son Bill, or C.W., who would eventually take over the business. In 1937, a road was built to the top of the hill, and trucks replaced the old transport of the rock. How long have you worked for Biesanz Stone Company?
I think 36 years.
So you've seen the mountain move.
Yeah.
I see just one layer of smooth rock, but I see a whole hillside on top of it that you've obviously cut out. Describe what's going on here.
Actually, there's 80 feet above what we use. We have to take that off to get to this. I drill holes and blast it. That'll get drilled and shot and crushed into road rock, crushed rock, riprap, whatever. But we shoot to 5 feet, blast to 5 feet, and after that's off, then we'll drill that and blast that also, and then we just scoop that off. And
now tell us about how you get it so smooth on the top.
that's all natural. We don't do that.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Geologists call this stone Oneida dolomite, which is basically 1/2 carbonate of magnesium and 1/2 carbonate of lime, laid down millions of years ago from organic material and compressed and covered by the Cambrian Ocean. Because the Mississippi River Valley is an unglaciated area, this rock never moved, and its strength withstood the waves and weather of the past. The limestone in this area can vary from 15 feet to 90 feet. Underneath the limestone is sandstone. On this particular site, just below the 80 feet of limestone overburden, there is approximately 9 feet of the perfect travertine building stone. This is cut out in 3 layers of 8 by 4 foot stone blocks. There is a natural seam running through each layer that allows them to lift each block off in uniform size after their vertical cut. The horizontal cut is unnecessary.
There's seams at about 12 inches and then 20 inches, 10 inches. The next one's about 32, and then 12 inches, and the bottom one's anywhere from 12 to 20, I'd say. And what we do is, with the layer we want to take out, we drill a hole in that seam, and we'll stick a splitter in it, and we'll raise it up and take it out.
Describe the cutting of this natural flat layer.
We've got rails, 135 feet of rails. We can set the saw up or set the rails up at whatever size block we want. Usually it's 54 inches. And we'll set the rail up, set the saw on it. We start the saw, which runs from the portable generator. Start the saw up, it'll go automatically down to its cut destination to the depth that you want it at. And it'll start traveling backwards by itself. You keep an eye on it when you start. Once it starts moving, you don't have to do anything until it's done.
What's the meaning of the water?
We need the water for this saw. It's for lubricant and keep the blade cool. This is all from the rain we just had. Usually it'd be dry up here, but we've had enough rain all year that we didn't have to pump any water up here. So.
Now tell me, Mark, what it's like for you to work here every day.
How do I like it? Well, it's like, because of the big equipment, the heavy equipment, it's something every kid ever wanted, something big and yellow to ride around in. So.
The blocks of travertine stone are stacked on top of the hill until they're ready to be cut and fabricated into building stone. They then are brought a little further down the hill to the fabrication center. Before viewing this process, we stop off at the main office to talk with the fourth generation of the Biesanz stonemen who joined his father in the business in 1971. He takes us through the story of the business and the family from 1945, when his father, Charles Jr., took over from Charles Sr. when he returned from World War II.
He was pretty much involved until my dad got back from World War II.
Okay. Oh, he was in it for a long time. And
it for a
actually, he
long
was
time.
quite a unique man, your grandfather, Charlie.
He was indeed.
But back when the Oaks was in Winona, I remember seeing your grandfather playing the bones there.
Oh, yeah. He had zithers, and he loved to play the mandolin, and he played the guitar as well. He was very active musically.
Well, then let's go back to the third generation stoneman in the family. Who was your father?
Status of the business after World War II was not very good. I mean, it was a pretty shaky operation at that point in time. And he told me that he had made a promise to his mother that if he survived the war, he would come back and try and get this business back on its feet. And so, in the process, he ended up with 11 kids, and he didn't have much choice than to make it go, other than to make it go, And he was just sort of a natural-born salesman. With the post-World War II revival, there was a surge in building, and he did a lot of church work, a lot of school work, educational facilities. He was very successful and stayed very busy through the 50s and the 60s. And then when I came back in the early 70s, I got pretty much involved in production out there, and he was doing the sales, and that's kind of what our arrangement was out here.
There's kind of an interesting side story here. I understand that he invited one of his best buddies from the Navy to come back and help him. And then you guys ended up in a real interesting situation.
We sure did.
Okay, tell us about that.
The fellow's name was Keith Walsh, married to Mert, father of 9 children. And when my dad came back to town and got involved in the stone business in the late 40s, he purchased a house on West 7th Street, which happened to be a duplex. He invited Keith Walsh to come back and work with him out here at the stone quarry. My dad offered him to purchase half of the house. And so we ended up with 11 kids on our side, and they had 9 kids on their side. And they worked together all those years until Keith retired.
There's a lot of excitement going on in that Walsh Biesanz home.
Action Central.
Well, tell me how the needs of the stones has developed from, say, your father's era to your era.
Well, way back when, stone was a structural material. So if you wanted to build a basement, you built it with big 2-foot thick chunks of stone. And if you wanted to build a bridge, you built it out of solid big chunks of stone. It was a structural material. The idea with the stone being as strong as it is and as durable as it is, as permanent as it is allowed us to, much like the analogy I would say of a good oak log or a cherrywood log, it's enabled us to get it thinner and thinner and thinner to keep it more economical on a square foot basis, or a job basis for people to still be able to use stone, to give all the benefits of stone, but not to have the excess weight and shipping costs and spending additional money for thicknesses that they don't need. So thinning down the material, putting it on different frame types and that sort of thing is really what's allowed us, I think, to keep going.
So since you started in 1971, how much have you seen come out of here? How far has the hill moved?
We really process about 1/3 of an acre per year, 13 acres or so. It's a slow process, slow but sure.
Well, how much limestone is left to quarry here?
There really are many years of quarry available. Yeah.
I've always been curious about one thing. If we cut back the overburden, as you call it, say on the hill directly above Lake Winona, like between Garvin Heights and Lake Winona, would we find this wonderful rich vein of travertine in there also?
I think if the elevation was as high as, let's say, the base of the Sugarloaf Rock, if the elevation of a hill was that high, I would say yes.
Tell me some of the buildings that you've built that you're the most proudest of outside of Winona.
Okay. I would say the most prestigious job we've done is the Minnesota History Center, which is the headquarters for the Minnesota Historical Society. That project was one we were involved in for probably 3 years. A great deal of Winona stone, both on the exterior and wonderfully exhibited on the interior. The floors, the walls in many areas are made out of Winona stone, fabricated Winona stone. We've done buildings in Gainesville, Florida, Colorado Springs, Salt Lake City, Utah. We've really gone all over, but mostly our market area is the 5 states that comprise the upper Midwest.
What are the other products other than building materials that you would use your stone for?
I mean, we've done 12-story buildings where we've clad entire commercial projects with it, and we've done hearthstones, we've done bookends, we've done mantles, we've done retaining wall rock, planter boxes, stone benches, picnic tables. We've done windmills. We pretty much, with epoxy, with stone glue, you can use your imagination, and if you can kind of put it together like Legos, then we can build it. Because stone glue is like Elmer's glue for stone. It enables you to just kind of build your way around the world. And it's actually, the epoxy is stronger than the stone itself.
How many employees do you have here?
20 plus or minus is a good round number.
Okay. Well, let's take a tour of the plant and also
Sure.
take a, maybe talk a little bit about the stone outside and see what you have out in your field.
Absolutely.
But before that, let's talk about one other thing.
Sure.
We absolutely have to put out here on the table. You have since sold the business, and you will no longer be part of the Biesanz Stone Company other than running it for someone else for a short time.
A local group approached me about 3 years ago and started conversations about it, and slowly but surely I got used to the idea that my sons were not going to be involved in the business. They just chose to live in other communities and not get involved. So we started working in earnest probably at the beginning of this year, and they have graciously allowed me a consulting agreement going forward for a number of years so that I don't have to feel like I'm completely separated, and I can give them, the benefit of my experience if they wish, and they know that. And we've had really a wonderful time making the transition, and I'm very excited about the future of the company and very excited about the capabilities that they bring to the table. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
And I understand it's going to be continuously called the Biesanz Stone Company.
It is.
Good.
We worked long and hard to establish, putting our name on the product that we want the best quality that we can possibly give, and they're interested in, I think, in building on that concept, to keep it number one. So. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, on with our tour. So Chuck, we're on the way to your yard and your manufacturing area, but I see all this stuff here and I see little stones with prices on. Can people actually come up to the yard here and purchase some stones from you?
Yes, indeed. These are sort of remnants from projects we've done. For instance, this is $40, which will purchase this entire pallet of stone. How about that, huh?
So this is sort of your retail center.
It is. It is. A lot of people are looking for landscape rocks for gardens or for walkways or stopping, at the bottom of rain spouts, all that kind of thing.
Chuck, would this be a good example of about the size of block that you pull out of the hill or cut out of the hill?
Yeah, we vertically separated this block from the next one, which would be very similar to this, right above it, and then one more layer above that would make up the 9 to 10 feet that we were talking about. And you can see kind of how consistent the color is and the texture, these little fissures, the little holes in the stone that contribute to the character of the stone.
Now what's going to happen to this block of stone?
This block of stone is going to go inside, and fittingly enough, the first procedure is to cut it in slabs of varying thickness with the grain. So what we'll do is we'll tip this up on end, and we'll take it under one of 3 block saws that we have, and then we'll slab the material into a particular thickness. As you can see, the diamonds, as hard as they are working on that very hard stone, make a lot of noise. Take about a half hour to create a slab like that.
Then it raises itself up, and it'll index over to the next slab, depending on what thickness we want. And we'll start the same process all over again. And the water is used to suppress the dust, and it's also used to keep the heat down from the diamond segments when they're hitting the stone. As you can imagine, that would create a lot of friction otherwise.
And I saw in this first area here, you have two saws. You have the radial saw, which we hear in the background.
Right.
And then you have also a band saw.
Right.
Describe how that one works differently then.
Sure. The beauty of that saw is it can saw much larger blocks. It can saw up to about 7 feet high, whereas the circular saw can only saw about 5 feet high. The diamond wire is much like a big cheese slicer in that it'll take, one individual cut and just go right down, come back up, and then the cart indexes over to the next thickness. Does the same process all over again.
From this room, then what is the next room? I noticed that one has it looks like a bigger saw.
This is actually a 3 meter or 11.5-foot blade which will cut through 5 feet of stone. And these diamond tips here the diamonds are an industrial grit diamond that are impregnated in a metal matrix which is designed to wear away at the same rates that the diamonds get dull, because the diamonds will get dull. And General Electric makes these industrial diamonds. They're still the hardest substance known to man. So even as hard as the stone is, as you will see in the different processes where we're sawing live, this does quite a job in cutting through the limestone. Once the slabs are cut to the proper thickness, they'll have machine marks on them, marked from the diamond saw teeth. So they'll have big sort of semicircular, non-consistent marks in them. We have to get those off, and we have to gauge the surface to a very flat plane. So we have a horizontal diamond grinder, and we diamond grind the plane, take about 1/8 of an inch off that slab, take it down so all the machine marks are out of it, and so it's very flat and plain. And then at that point, we can take it through the 8-headed Zambone Italian finishing product machine, whereby we can put the different bricks on and take it to a honed finish or a polished finish. Start out with a very coarse grit to go with a medium grit and finish up with a fine grit. Since Winona limestone is also classified as a grade A marble, it is able to be polished, and with 8 heads and progressively finer finishing bricks, we can take it to a high reflective polish. And then after that, then it goes into the main plant, and then the slabs are turned into the cut to size pieces that are going to be ready then for our final order. This is our finish area. We have a product here that we developed over the last 35 years or so. It's a prefabricated tilt-up type stone face panel with a metal frame on the back. The advantage of this is that they're all either bolted or welded connections into the structure. And so we can pick up this entire panel as though it were one large piece of stone, because all of the joints within the panel are epoxied together. All the connections are made from the steel to the building. This, for instance, would be a floor-to-floor panel, let's say from the 2nd floor to the 3rd floor. So when that structure is up, that entire space is going to be covered on the outside envelope by this stone. And then with the interior portion of it being steel stud framework like this, you can put drywall and insulation and complete your wall with electrical connections and everything. It's a marvelous product, because as you can see, the face of the stone is only 2 inches thick, so we can make it economical to cut because the thickness is not that great, but it will last permanently. There are firms that manufacture these metal studs and track, and
So we ordered it long lengths, we cut it to size, we do all our own welding. Using epoxy, we bolt the stone to the steel frame, so it's all one integral unit when we're done. And when he picks it up, like with that big rig there, tomorrow morning, all the epoxy will be dry. They pick up the entire unit and put it on a truck, and they ship down the road just like that.
So this is your major finished product then, correct?
This is one line that we have specialized in that has helped us carve out our niche, basically, within the stone industry. With our engineering prowess and our ability to make the frames and integrate them to the stones, take them to the site. We hire the installers, and it's a unified package for an owner and a general contractor for us to be able to do that. So,
Phenomenal.
yeah.
That's how it's done?
Yeah, that's how it's done.
The newer building in the back is used for sorting the stones for different projects that we're doing. When we cut to size, we don't necessarily cut in order, so we use that to sort and do any finished ends on material.
Now you have come a long ways from having just sidewalks around Winona.
Right.
Your great-grandfather would have been proud, I'm sure, to see what it's been like today and the different things that you produce here. Chuck, so now you're handing it all over. Tell me what it's been like for you all these years to run your father's, your grandfather's, and your great-grandfather's business.
Well, it's been a great joy. I think it's the world's best building product. I've enjoyed the opportunity to build on my father's success, to work with all the skilled employees that we have, many of whom I hired, and they just know what they're doing with stone. I'm very pleased that I got to this stage and have been able to get to the point to hand it on to a new generation.
Good. Congratulations and good luck in the future.
Well, thank you very much, Joyce. I appreciate that.
It's been a pleasure for me telling the story.
Great. Wonderful. That's good. Yeah.
Thanks for joining me today at the Biesanz Stone Quarry for a fascinating story on Winona's very own travertine, one of the best building stones in the nation, and about the family who blasted it out of the bluffs for over 100 years. I'm Joyce Woodworth. Enjoy the spirit of the heartland.